unfortunately, we had a few more technical difficulties, which appears to be the way of GRS PC1 this season. But this time it's not my internet's fault. So that's a 1+, I suppose. So we have had our first laps of this qualifying session for everyone other than new Alpha Tauri driver Simon Novak. Both started to do a lap on wets, so I imagine that's just getting their setup all right. There could be some heavy rain predicted for a race, so potentially Quill just playing a little bit of a strategic game. And a bit of a spin there, unfortunately, for Jordan Bailey, who is the eagle-eyed of you may notice is a PC F2 driver who is kindly reserving up for us. Currently at the top of the standings, we have the Haas driver, Karol Wodzinski, and Williams of Mitja Merckx, both with 29 sixes. 1/10 of a second back to the McLaren of Matthias Posch, and another 10th to his teammate, Jonathan Foss. So McLaren having another strong showing, just like they did last time out. They got 2nd and 4th in Australia, currently 3rd and 4th on the grid. Mercedes will be looking for a bit of an improvement. They took the race win with Luke last time out, so he'll be hoping to possibly repeat that if he can. And Quill Pavlakovic has done a lap on wets, so that's actually not representative with a 40.4 right now. So they'll be looking to take a fair chunk of time off that. I imagine we will see the Mercedes guys challenging at the front for the end of qualifying. Or maybe they're just going to get lightning starts and it's not really hard. Simon is actually out on track now, just doing his out lap here. He was a little wide at Egna 1. But he'll be the last man to set a time to get something on the board before we move into the final runs. So Simon possibly just doing two runs, keeping a couple of sets of softs back for the race. It is a race where you can do a 2-stop and it's not too bad because the softs are extremely quick, although they do wear very fast. You don't lose all that much. Ooh, as he has a bit of a spin there going around Spoon, which he managed to do without touching the inside curb, so that's kind of impressive, really. That inside curb can unsettle the car, as Quill's now gone down to inters, so I think they're working their way to the softs, potentially. As quite a flurry of cars now coming out of the pits, so Simon might hit a bit of traffic here in Sector 1. Hopefully everyone gets out of the way if he is going to start this flying lap. Hopefully he's got the tyres nice and cooled down after that little bit of a spin at Spoon. And he is going to go around, so I think prudent to stay on board and have a little bit of a track guide here at Suzuka. So run down to turn 1 and 2, which is just called turn 1, which is the only DRS zone on the track. As he gets all out of shape on the exit. Fortunately, he hasn't gone down. So this is going to be a representative lap. It's probably better just to pack it up in the pits, I think. Who else is on a lap? Mitch is on a lap, just coming around turn 1 and 2, so I think we'll jump on board with Mitch instead. And he's coming through the S section now, so this whole sector 1, I see another spin there for Simon in front, so hopefully that's not putting Mitch off too much. Keeps a nice tight line there as we come now up the hill through the long left-hander of Dunlop. Easy to lose the rear end there. Traction sometimes just steps out and gets away. With a quick flick for Degner 1, run it as much over the curbs as you can to get a wider line as possible through the second Degner. Under the bridge, the only figure of 8 track on the calendar, and then hard on the brakes down to third gear for the hairpin. Maximise your exit here. Good traction, and just to get a lot of power down as we sweep now through the long right-hander of 200R. Keep it tight to the right-hand side, minimise the distance. Hard on the brakes, down 2 gears, into Spoon. Just clip just the edge of both apexes and run it wide out over this outside curb, straight in the lineup. Running down the long back straight, coming up over the bridge. They wanted a DRS zone here, but weren't allowed it, because you don't brake for the quick left flick here at 130R. And then hard on the brakes for the triple chicane Casio triangle. Ride as much of the curves as you can, they're pretty flat. You carry a lot of speed and straight line through there. And hard on the power, DRS open, onto the line, it's at 29.4 for Mitchell. So finds another couple of tenths, and that's going to put him top of the timing sheets for now. As pretty much everybody else is out on a lap as well. Johnny's just coming up to Casio in the McLaren, he's a couple of tenths up as well. So we could have found maybe a little bit more time in this final sector. He could jump Carroll, get on that front row provisionally. GRS opens up, and it's a 29.5, so he does. Just a tenth and a half behind Mitchell. P2 for the McLaren driver for now, but everybody else out on a lap. Just Carroll just starting his now. Let's see if anybody else is up. Yeah, Luke's found half a second in the first sector in the Mercedes, just coming around the second Degner. So this could be a big lap for Luke if he can keep this going, find a bit more time here through sectors 2 and 3. Good apex in the hairpin, manages to just clip it nicely and doesn't get a lock up or on the rotation of the tyres. So could have found a bit of time there as he flicks around 200R. Possibly a bit of traffic in front. However, there is Quill just down the road, so we might be getting a tow here from the interclad Mercedes potentially. But there's just going to be a Williams slightly in the way, which is Mitchell, but Williams gets out of the way, and Quill's not hanging around to give Luke a tow, so, but he is almost 8 tenths up here through this Sector 2 split, and Sector 3 is extremely short, so we are looking somewhere around the 29.5s, possibly more if he can find some time here through the Casio triangle. Keeps a tight line to where the pit entry is, and it's a 29.5, which is 14 thousandths off Johnny's time. P3 for now, as Quill's at 134 on the Inters, which is actually pretty good for Inters. They're a little strong. As Carroll is 3 tenths up, flicks it around 130R. He's last man on a lap of this set of runs. So we will have another run for everyone. The Haas driver just going to come over the line now. And a 29.2, so he goes fastest. So a real bit of a duel sort of emerging at the front between Carroll and Mitchell. A bit of carnage going on, I think, at Spoon. Between Simon and one of the Aston Martins, which will be Anson. He was done a 29.9, put himself up into 6th place. Simon's definitely going to be looking to improve as in his 2 minutes 23. This lap's already around 150, so there's definitely been some form of bin on mistake here somewhere. And yeah, he's just going to bail out of this. Jump in the pits, get another set of tyres on and go for a final flying lap. Tyre's still on an outlap, so he's a little bit out of sync with everybody else. I think everyone else is probably just coming back into the pits. Although Jordan, reserve driver in the Williams, has managed to find the second and a half, go up to a 1 minute 30.6. Currently he's at P11, just a tenth behind fellow reserve Lewis Pierce in the Aston Martin. So PC2 drivers doing okay, keeping up with sort of the bottom end of the points. Quicker than a couple of the PC1 drivers. Although, of course, Quill's not really set a representative time, neither has Simon quite yet. But they're not too far away. They would have been pretty decent laps yesterday as well. But we didn't get a full quali because it rained. And with Quill's current choices of tyres, we may be seeing some more rain here as well. Carroll's going to pit, so Matthias is going to be the only man on the flyer on track. Yeah, Jordan's going back in the pit. He's 3 seconds down on his delta, so Matthias just starting a lap now. So going to be our only man on a flyer in the McLaren. He's got a little bit of time to find. He was pretty close to Johnny before, but he's dropped a couple of tenths behind him. He needs to hook this lap up, really. He's just about going to have time to get back in if he bails the end of the lap and puts some tyres on, but if he doesn't, this is going to be his final run. So he needs to get this right as he sweeps it around Dunlop, takes plenty of that curve on the outside, just helps to stabilise the car slightly, so we're running too wide into the gravel. He flicks it through the first Degner and the second. The Alpine in front runs very wide to get off track. It's another way to let him pass, but he's done pretty well there. Matthias doesn't get held up too much as he drops it into the hairpin. Again, good traction, going to get a good drive here all the way through 200 bar. Keeping it tight to the right hand side. Minimise that distance, minimise the amount of time it takes you to get down to Spoon. Rides over that inside curve as Carroll's retired in the pits. Carroll's not going to go out for another run. He's going to be happy with that 29.2. Lesko's very lucky there on the exit of Spoon, very close to invalidating his lap. Just about kept the edge of a tyre on the outside edge of the white line. He's just 11 thousandths up, so he's not really gaining a huge amount of time unless he made a big mistake on his previous lap here in Casio. Takes plenty of that inside curve and the second one as well. And now he's going to bail out of this. Not making a big enough improvement, so he's going to bail, put some new tyres on. He's going to have probably about 45 seconds to get rolled back in, get some new boots on, get out, and definitely make the line. Just could see a little bit of traffic here potentially. Johnny's got early, making sure he gets this lap in. Doing a little bit of a real F1 strategy, but of course we don't have the same rules regarding yellow flags, and there are no red flags in game, so you're not going to get your lap compromised like that. Although, speaking of going early, Joseph Phillipson is already on a lap, so he's going to be running here through the Degnas, and he's probably going to be the first man, I think, to set his final time. Good through Degna 2, gets a little bit high on that outside curve. You don't want to ride too much because it can unsettle the car under traction. Choose a second gear for the hairpin. Doesn't short shift on exit, just balances that throttle. Tries to get as good a launch as possible for the run through 200R. It all seems nice and neat and tidy so far. So we might be looking at a bit of an improvement. Only needs half a tenth to jump Owen, and a full tenth will get him above his teammate Adam McCall as well. But then there is sort of a 4/10 jump. So we might be kind of aiming for 7th place here, which is anything, although he's unfortunately 4/10 down. He's not failed this, he's not regenerating his battery, so he's not really going to have the charge to go for another lap, unless he's definitely made a big mistake in there somewhere. Will was 2/10 up and he's had a spin at Spoon, so that's not going to be an improvement for him. Simon's 38 seconds up. His current best lap is a 2 minutes 23, so 38 seconds doesn't tell us everything. He's going to come through Casio, and just very slow to the line, just fighting the car for traction. It's going to be a 146, so it's a little more representative than he was. Starting there, Will's going to finish his and go again. He's managed to regenerate a decent chunk of battery, so should be a pretty good lap time if you can hook it all up and get it all together. Adam McCall jumps into a 1 minute 30. Oh, sorry, he's just starting a lap on his 1 minute 30.3. Same as Owen, right behind him. There's 15,000 to separate those two, so that's going to be a bit of a duel as they come towards the line. Hanson Wong just starting his as well for Aston Martin. Followed by Tyrish Poss, and Will's finally on some dry tyres, so they'll be looking to see what they can do when they haven't got grooves in their rubber. As Johnny has finished his lap, so they're going early, has got him the time in now. It's a 29.2, so jumps Carroll by about 1/4 of a tenth, and that's the checkered flag done. So Luke just made the line in time, and he's going to be able to get this lap in, and he's going to be the last man to do so. So Joseph Ellison bails out, he's coming in the pits, so he's done for the day. And then we have the Williams parent, Mitchell. Whoa, big squirrel on the way out of Casio. He's over the 7,000 down, so even with that squirrel, he had a gain time in the final second. Don finds 6/10, jumps up to a 130.0. Next man over is going to be Will. So Will Coates in the Red Bull, he's 3/10 up, running into Casio. Getting another little bit of a kick out as Lewis Pearce has unfortunately retired from the session. Will finds 3/10, that's a 30.3 as well. This looks like this is kind of the cut-off of what's considered a good lap. Adam has unfortunately invalidated his lap. Owen finds 4/10 into the 29s. 29.9 for the Alfa Romeo driver. Anson's 2/10 up, just comes out of Casio. Runs very wide on the exit, it's not minimising the distance of the line. It's a 29.8 though, jumps back ahead of Owen. A couple of guys going a little bit slowly as Matthias does a 29.1 for the McLaren. And Quill just a 30.7, so didn't really get any practice in on the dry tyres. He's going to start dead last, and Luke with a 29.3, so finds another couple of tenths. But that is going to set our grid for the race. It's a McLaren 1-2, and all McLaren front row. Matthias ahead of Jonathan. So they had a very strong outing last race. They'll be hoping for another one. Karol Wodzinski in the Haas in P3. I think he may have actually DC'd when he retired from session, because he should returned him to online according to my Steam. And Luke in P4 for Mercedes, ahead of the Williams of Mitchell and the Aston Martin of Anson Wong. Owen Heinen takes 7th place for the 1 running Alfa Romeo. Jordan Bailey, PC2 reserve, takes P8, so that's a very strong outing there from Jordan. He did have mega pace yesterday, so hopefully he'll be able to replicate that today. Adam McCall in the Alpine takes P9, with Will Coates, the sole Red Bull, rounding out the top 10. But of course, no tyre rules this year, so you can start on whatever you want. 11th place for Joseph Ellison, and there's a big gaggle of cars there, 3 guys all within the 30.3s. Lewis Pierce with a 30.5 in P11, and Quill and Simon rounding out the grid on that back row. So Quill's going to be looking to make up as many places as possible here to continue Mercedes' fine start to the season, as it seems to be fairly similar conditions as what we saw right at the start in PC2 yesterday. Sunny, but quite overcast, and some of those clouds are quite dark, so we definitely could see rain later in the race. Unfortunately, the spectators don't get to know what the weather is, so we're guessing as much as you guys on stream. Unfortunately. So just giving everyone time to pick their strategy, pick their fuel loads. If it is going to rain, I imagine most people are going to be taking fuel out of the car wherever possible. It's fairly easy to save around here. You can just sort of chill it out a little bit through Sector 1, save a decent chunk of fuel for while it is dry. As there you go, Carol's back in the session, but with only 5 seconds left, so may end up a little over-fueled. But of course, with the bugs, there is no formation lap, so we are going to be straight to the lights for 5 lights. And it's lights out and away we go in Suzuka. Seems a pretty even start at the front, but AI Carol gets a great launch, so actually it might have done him wonders to disconnect. Owen gets a trademark classic start. He's already passed Luke and up into P4. It's as they are at the front, with the McLarens leading us around into the S's for the first time. There's the yellow flag at the back, and that is Simon who's gone round. So it's a McLaren 1-2. Carroll's now back in control of his car and pressuring the tyres. It gets a little bit sketchy just on the run into Dunlop with those cold medium tyres. Owens up in P4, followed by Luke, Anson, Mitchell, Adam McCall in the Alpine, Will Coates in the Red Bull, and Joseph Ellison, second Alpine, rounding out the top 10 as he gets very close to the back of Will going into the second Degner. No contact. Carroll's challenging Matthias now on the outside of the hairpin. Matthias just about leaves him space, but Carroll's got 2 wheels on the grass. This isn't going to be doing wonders for his traction, but he's going to fight this all the way down 200R, and he's going to be side by side on the way into Spoon. Matthias can just break a little here, run him slightly out of road, but Carroll keeps his foot in, and he's going to manage to make that move on the outside of Spoon. That's a great race, great overtake from Carroll, but it has allowed Johnny to build a decent bit of a gap in front. And then we've got a little group of 3 here, and then there's a second and a half back to Luke, so he's just not been able to keep with these guys, though he is on the hard, so that would probably explain quite a lot of that. He is lead hard runner. The only other guys on hards are Quill, Lewis, and Joel at the back, as we've got quite a few position changes. I think Matthias may have disconnected here. And we've got a big crash, and that's Mitchell and Owen out of the race, coming on the final corner at the end of the first lap. So just season goes from bad to worse. Disqualification in the first race, and a terminal damage crash in the second, and that's going to be a full safety car here at the start of lap 2. So we only had 2 safety cars yesterday. Hopefully we don't get them as many here, as Joseph Ellison's binned it under safety car. So we're already down to 11 runners. We've done a lap and a corner, guys. Come on. And that's going to erode the lead that Jonathan had at the front, though. So he's going to have to build that out again. And if the guys behind him fight, though, that's entirely possible. Matthias seemed to lose a chunk of places. I'm not sure if he disconnected or just had a serious moment as he dropped down to P5. He's been jumped by Luke and Adam McCall. So it's oh yeah, doing a bit of teleporting around there. It says, yeah, Owen's left the session, which makes sense, because he's dead. So Luke up to P3 on the hard tyres for Mercedes. Quill, Jordan, and Lewis all on the hards as well, going to P8, P9, and P10. Although there is only 11 runners, so that's Simon at the back also on mediums. And then 6 of the front 7 are on mediums as well, so you really can't get hards to the end from here. Anybody who was thinking about diving in and pitting. So I imagine we're going to see everybody stay out here. Unless we are forecast rain, then we might see somebody nearer the back taking a gamble. But I don't think any of these front guys are going to even really consider diving into the pits unless they've got damage of some kind. Yeah, everybody's going to stay out, so this is going to expedite a pretty quick safety car restart. Although for some reason the safety car's packed up after Degner too, which seems very late in the lap for the safety car to wait for the leaders. That potentially is just how Suzuka works. I'm not entirely certain. I suppose it would be a little dangerous. It's stopping in sector 1, especially if it's wet. So I think we should probably take a look at position changes, see how everything's gone off the start for everyone. So the front three have all jumped place. Courtesy of Matthias dropping down to P5. Adam McCall's up to P4, he started P9, so he's had a cracking start there to gain 5 places within a lap. Courtesy slightly of some deaths around him, but you've got to keep it clean. To finish first you must finish, of course. Anson maintains P6 in the Aston Martin. Will's up 3 places to P7 in the Red Bull, with Quill up 5. Up to P8, so it started 13th, and there isn't 13 anymore, so they had to have gained places, so that's good. Jordan's lost a place, down to P9, but only dropped behind Quill, so that should be okay, as the safety car is going to come in this lap. And then Lewis up 2 and Simon up 3 at the back. So, best seat in the house is probably on board with Carroll, as he's going to try and nail it to restart here. Behind Johnny. He's going to weave in his McLaren, get some heat into those mediums, which is going to be a strange experience for them, as with the safety car bug, everyone starts on 70% tyres. 70-degree tyres, I should say. And Johnny's just going to go out of Casio. Oh, and he's lost the rear. Oh, he put the power down too early, and he's gone to drop all the way to the back. And that's going to have Carroll home scot-free. He's already got 7 tenths back to Luke behind. So great qualifying has already unravelled pretty much for McLaren here, and we're only on lap 4 as Carroll's gone round now on the exit of turn 2. And he was saying in the chat beforehand, the only way I stip in is if I get punted. Well, Luke was miles behind him, so that didn't happen. As Luke's now going to lead them. Apologies. Luke's going to lead them through the S's and up through Dunlop Curve, and he's on the hard tyres, so they need to get past him. He's going to be going longer than these guys. Is essentially on a better strategy for the race, as long as there isn't a perfectly timed safety car for the medium runners, which is just kind of going to mess him up a little bit. But as of right now, he's a race winner from round 1, is in the lead in round 2. And Jonathan managed to recover in P9, so stayed ahead of Simon, but Carroll is all the way at the back, 20 seconds off the back. So he's going to need to drive a hell of a recovery drive, or hope for more safety cars, as Jonathan makes a move on Lewis Pearson up into P8. So we've got a little bit of gaps opening up already. We've only done 2/3 of a lap. Luke, Adam and Matthias at the front, all separated by about 3 tenths. As they're going to come through Casio, and there's a 2.5 back to Will in the Red Bull, who's already up to 4th. I'm pretty sure he was 10th on the safety car restart. No, he was 7th on the safety car restart, sorry. So he's gained another 3 places, so he's doing pretty well there, as Matthias sets a fastest lap in P3. So front 2 are going to be coming under pressure, and Jonathan sets 1 net as well here, which, coming from a spin, shows just how much pace he had that lap, as he didn't get an ideal exit out of Casio, we'll say. But yeah, so 2.5 back from Matthias in P3 down to Will Coates in P4 in the Red Bull. He's got Anton Wong just about hanging with him. And then a 2.5 back to Quill on the hard tyres in the second Mercedes. Coming under some pressure from Jordan, but Jordan's going to have to watch his mirrors, as Johnny's all over the back of him for the run through Dunlop. And he might even think about a move into the first Degner if he can just about get close enough. He thinks better of it, but Jordan runs very deep, misses his braking point for the first Degner, and he's going to be kind of stranded in the gravel. And gives Johnson and Lewis a free place. As Will's unfortunately disconnected from the session. Hopefully he can get back in as soon as possible. But he's going to go side by side through 200R, which is Good thing it's AI, because it's not the smartest thing to do that. But still, just 3/10 of gaps at the front with Luke, Adam, and Matthias. All just kind of holding station right now, but Luke's going to be very vulnerable once the DRS opens at the end of this lap, so they're not going to get it until the next pit straight. B is on the hard, so that's going to hamper his exit out of Casio, and Adam might thinks about a move into the Casio triangle and then thinks, actually that's a really bad idea because I'm liable to end up in a wall. So chooses just to sit behind for now, as there you go, the DRS enabled by race control, but with just the one DRS zone here, they're not going to get it until the next time we come around down the pit straight. Jonathan back up into P6 though, has managed to clear Quill relatively quickly with that tyre advantage of the mediums against the hards. Although that will kind of reverse itself in terms of mediums being better in about 4 laps, I think. You can get low teens on the mediums relatively comfortably, but they do start to drop off pretty quick and the hards essentially never wear. The number goes up, but the pace doesn't. So they'll be pretty good for Luke and Quill. Lewis and Jod a long way into the race as Simon's pit at the back and he has put those hards on, so that's going to drop him below Carroll, but he's served his pit stop now for the race as Jonathan's caught Ghost Will and up into P5 to take off after the Aston Martin of Anselm and undo some of the damage from that little spin he had on the safety car restart. Matthias dropped off the front 2 slightly, but he's still going to be plenty within that DRS range. So still able to put Adam McCall under some pressure as he's chasing after Luke, but Adam is going to have that DRS as well, which should protect him into turn 1, whether he can get close enough to Luke to potentially make a move. Luke with about a 20% battery advantage, so he can deploy some of his ARS to defend here if he deems it worth it. But we're not getting too much in the way of deployment, I don't think, from Adam McCall in the Alpine. He's just going to spend a little bit, maybe try and put Luke under a bit of pressure, possibly force him off the road. But Luke's wise to that. He's been racing long enough to not just run wide and defend fresh air, so manages to maintain position for now. And Matthias, I'm not sure if he's possibly beginning to struggle slightly on the medium, so maybe just made a small mistake in the last time round. But he's dropped from about 3/10 back to about 7, so lost 4/10, and he has spent more of his battery than both the guys in front as well. So not ideal for the pole sitter right now. But they do have 3 seconds back to the Aston Martin of Anson Wong, who's doing a pretty good job just holding P4 for now. Just driving his own race, keeping himself to himself, keeping out of trouble, which is always important, especially somewhere around Suzuka. It's a very old track, so the walls are very close. There's not too much in the way of runoff for a majority of the track, as we've got a crash at the back, and that is Simon on those new hards. So possibly they just weren't quite up to temperature, and they've spat him out of Sector 1, and he's found one of those walls, which is easy enough to do, believe me. But that's not going to be a safety car or even a VSC, it's just going to be a yellow flag in the section, as he visits the kite, clean out this car, probably before our leads get there. And Johnson, though, has managed to close up in P5 onto the back of Anson now, repairing quite a good chunk of this damage from his spin. He's made up a fair few places, as at the front, Adam McCall is going to go for the move for the lead. The Alpine driver scoops past the Mercedes of Luke Mills into turn 1 and 2, as Will has fortunately made it back into the session, having just lost a place to Quill and dropped to P7. So unfortunate for the Red Bull driver, but he's back now, so there's still another 19 laps to go for him to repair the disconnect. It's not screwed him like it did me yesterday, so don't worry about it. But Alpine lead now on the medium tyres, so he's going to have to try and build a bit of a gap here to Luke, because I can't imagine he's going to stay out all that long on those mediums. Medium soft is very, very sketchy here. You essentially have to straight into puncture territory on both tyres and be driving a slightly compromised setup in order to make it work, so unlikely that's what he's going to try and do. It'll probably be a fairly early, fairly aggressive medium hard strategy. The hards aren't too bad around here, even though they are the C1 tyres and you would expect them to be pretty terrible. They're actually okay, which makes a nice change on last game. Jonathan just 3/10 back from Anson, so he's going to be looking to push him essentially through 130R, get a better exit out of Casio and just dive into turn 1 with that help of the DRS drag reduction system. Donaldson's actually, with his pace, he's also managed to hold on to a fair chunk of his battery, still sitting up at around 50%. A little bit of deployment over the start-finish line, DRS open. Anston goes defensive, and Jonathan's just going to stick to the racing line and sweep straight past him. Anston thought about fighting that, but didn't have the battery or the straight line speed or really the angle into the corner to do anything about the McLaren driver, as that's going to put him up into P4 and he can start taking off after the leaders now. He's got a 3.5 second gap to gain. See if he can close that up before we get to the pit stops. I think with just 10 drivers running, I think more safety cars is unlikely, but never say never in league racing. Quill's going to be in P6, and this is probably the closest fight on track, apart from the front 3. So we've got a Mercedes followed by 2 cars in 6th place, and a Mercedes one of 2 chasing cars in P2. So Mercedes is where all the action is right now, it would seem. We're just running P6, just holding off the newly reconnected Will and Lewis in the Aston Martin. PC2 reserve having a pretty solid race so far, managing to keep up with Quill on that same strategy, just 1.3 seconds behind the Mercedes driver, so that's a pretty good showing so far. And Luke's really pressuring Adam McCall at the front though, and he forces him to take a defensive line into 130R, which is definitely not ideal. And he's going to have the DRS here, which Adam isn't going to have to defend with. And Adam's spent, again, he's about 20% lower on his battery. He's spent a fair amount trying to hold Luke off just about at the crossover on the tyres. Doesn't quite have the straight line speed or the exit out of Casio to really make a move there into turn 1. Though he could just be happy to sit here. He did this last week. He sat behind Matthias for 5 or 6 laps. Perfectly happy to save his battery, use the DRS just to allow him to conserve some fuel, conserve some battery power. Of course, Luke, as you can see there with the fuel light, is under-fueled as well. So he's going to be hoping for another safety car, as is Jonathan and Quill. Oh, and speaking of, just as I look at Quill, Will's had another spin, so he's gone around in sector 1, and he's potentially given Lewis Pierce a bit of damage. Yes, Lewis Pierce is missing his front wing end plate on that right-hand side, and that's going to lose him a place to Jordan Bailey and potentially to Carroll here as well as he runs wide out of the first Degner, yeah. So that's going to drop the Aston Martin driver down to P9 after he was having a really good race. You could potentially get the medium 17 laps, so it might not cost him all that much if he just dives in here at the end of this lap. If he's got good tyre management, it's going to have to be good tyre management to get mediums from lap 10. It's an unfortunate bit of contact there with the spinning Red Bull. I'm not sure if Will's got any damage, it all looks intact. So he might have lost time from that, but not really anything else in terms of compromising his strategy. So gaps at the front of about 4 tenths or Luke. It's a great exit out of Casio, and this time he may have a move into turn 1 with the overspeed from the DRS, and he does, and he manages just to bleed enough speed off to stick it to the apex. Adam was looking to try and cut back and go underneath there in turn 2, but he's wise to it, just parks it in exactly the right place to stop the Alpine driver doing exactly that, and he is going to retake the lead on lap 11 on those hard tyres, which should now be the quicker race tyre. So he should be able to at least hold these guys off, if not build a little bit of an advantage possibly. Breaks a bit earlier to maximise his exit through Degner 2. But these 3 at the front, all pretty even on pace, maintaining very similar gaps for quite a lot of laps now. And all the time, though, Jonathan is coming. This is now just 2 seconds back. So he's gained a second and a half since overtaking Anson for P4. And soon this could be a 4-way fight at the front with the 2 McLarens potentially clashing over strategy, but also potentially being able to double team the other 2. As Wills unfortunately had another spin on the way out of Degner 2. Luke's managed to pull about 6 tenths on Adam McCall back in the Alpine, but this is allowing Matthias Bosch to take a look, and he's going to try it around the outside of Casio. That's brave. And there's a bit of contact, 2 or 3 times a bit of contact. Adam's going to keep the place, but just in that one corner they've lost a second to Jonathan. And the second McLaren's going to be joining in with this very quickly, as Matthias is going to go for the move. Both have DRS, but he just has more straight line speed. Spends quite a lot of battery there down the pit straight. Gets up into P2, as we've got a spinner at Casio, and that is unfortunately the Williams of Jordan Bailey. So he's going to drop off the back of Carroll in the Haas a little bit, which is going to be unfortunate for the PC2 driver. But we're going to stick, I think, with this front four, basically. Luke's managed to pull 1.6 seconds out in front as the guys behind have been fighting, just allowing him just to streak away a little bit. They probably should have focused more on just working together and trying to get on terms with the Mercedes driver on his hard tyres. Maybe go for running slightly longer on the mediums and try and undercut him when you think Luke's going to pit in a couple of laps. It's not the worst idea, especially if you expect some rain. But Jonathan is just 0.2 of a second behind Adam McCall, who I think his tyres have kind of fallen off a cliff because he's lost 1.3 seconds on tyres in this lap alone. He could get a little bit murdered by a second McLaren in 2 laps here. They run down to 130R. Jonathan's going to try the same move. He goes to the racing line early. Adam looks to go to bit defensive. Paxton in the middle of the track slightly covers off Johnson. Johnson's going to get a great exit out of Casio, and they're both in. Adam and Johnson both in the pits. Almost a little bit of contact on entry, but neither get a penalty for speeding at the start of lap 13. So it's going to be all fair if they get equal entry and exit from the pits. Yeah, I think they both nailed that one perfectly. So it's going to be as you were. And it'll be interesting to see how Matthias and potentially Luke react to this. I think it's too early for Luke really to come in and get to the end with his tyres in any kind of decent condition. He could be forced to try it, otherwise he's likely to get jumped by these guys on fresh hard tyres. Probably have a little bit more pace, but it's landed pretty well for him because as Adam and Johnson have come out of the pits, Jonathan's found himself behind Jordan Bailey, who's going to go for a move on Adam through sector 1. He's on the warm hard tyres, and the PC2 driver in the Williams is going to make that move on his hards that he started the race on. Adam tiptoeing a little bit through sector 1, just keeping those hard tyres out of the wall, and that's going to allow the Williams through. And this might help Luke and Matthias out because they could get held up here behind the Williams, not able to really put the hammer down once those tyres get up to temperature. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Matthias. I assume he's going to come and pit at the end of this lap, or possibly do one more and hope to clear Jordan. But he's within a second of Luke, so he's going to get the DRS if he chooses to stay out. And he does. He's going to go at least one more lap. Possibly hoping to lap a little faster than Jordan, build a bit of a gap. Let's take a look at lap times. Matthias's was a 33.4 last time round. So if that's quicker than what Jordan's doing, there is every chance he could jump the Williams and get a nice little bit of a gap ahead of the Alpine and McLaren as well. He was leading both, as John's going to come in and pit. John's in, so he's not going to be holding those guys up now, and he gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding into pits. Carroll's also in, as is Anson. He's just going to emerge from the pit lane now on hard tyres. But he's about 3 seconds behind Jonathan and Adam, who are going to take off for a little bit now after Matthias. The tyres should be up to temperature now and not getting held up by anyone. Nice bit of clean air in front of Adam, although Johnson's kind of going to have to stick to his pace if he does have any extra in that McLaren. It would serve him well to make the move now as soon as possible. He can just get on terms, potentially into the hairpin if he gets a really good exit out of the second Degner, as they scoop under the bridge, and he's just going to be too far back to realistically send one from there. But he's going to possibly focus on getting the best exit possible, maybe have a run through 200R. They're about even on battery, so he doesn't have that advantage anymore. Adams managed to save quite a lot through the pit stop phase, which is going to help him out in terms of defending here from the McLaren and hopefully not getting undercut by Matthias, who is in the pits. So Matthias dives in from P2. See where he emerges relative to his teammate Jonathan and Adam in the Alpine. As we're up to lap 15, so he's not going to have to do all that much on the hards, as Adam runs a little bit wide at 130R, and they're going to go side by side into Casio here. Johnson gets a better line, just squeezes him onto the first apex. and he's going to take the position that takes P4. But where's Matthias? Matthias is already on pit exit, and he is going to manage to get a decent little bit of a gap over these guys. He's already in turn 2, and that's going to be a pretty big chunk, but how much time is he going to lose in this first sector? Currently the gap at 4.2 back to Jonathan, but he could lose a fair amount of time in here as he's going to have to tiptoe on those tyres as they'll be freezing cold. Jonathan and Adam are already up to temperature. Jonathan's already taken 1.3 seconds out of him. We haven't even got to Dunlop. He sweeps it around Dunlop. That gap's going to come all the way down to 2.6, 2.5, 2.5. So he's taken 1.7 seconds out of him in Sector 1. But now the tyres should be just about up to temperature from the tyres. And he should be okay to just back it off a little bit. And just keep them behind. Not having to tiptoe too much. Should have plenty of traction on those hard tyres, and they'll very easily go to the end. But that leaves us with a Mercedes 1-2. So Toto will be calling for a safety car right about now, just to allow them both to get off those hard tyres and onto the mediums, which is exactly what Luke's going to do. So Luke boxes. On lap 15, he's going to go onto medium tyres, go to the end of the race. It's been pretty complete so far, the racing, so I'm not expecting any more safety cars. And Quill's going to stay out. So Quill's going to stay out on the hard tyres, go a bit longer. They're going to actually jump Luke, yeah, and take the lead of the race for now. But it'll be interesting to see what happens if Luke appears on the back of Quill, if Quill's just going to let their teammate go. I imagine they will, as Jonathan sets a new fastest lap with a 32.6. So absolutely flying. Quill's last time round was a 33.9. So losing about 1.3 seconds to Jonathan, who's now just a second and a half behind his teammates, so did continue to gain a decent chunk of time on the rest of that last lap. As John Bailey goes fastest with a 32.2. I told you he was rapid yesterday. He is on mediums, but he's also a PC2 driver, so he's showing he's got some serious pace around Suzuka. There's not many people do a lot faster than Johnny. But Luke has actually, yeah, Luke's managed to stay ahead of all these guys, so had a really good end of his stint on those hard tyres. Still had great pace in the rubber, and he's got about a second and a half over the tyres, so he even gained slightly over the pit stop phase. Kind of just shows how bad those T1 hard tyres are through Sector 1 when you come out of the pits. Absolutely like fighting an octopus in the car, just trying to get it through Sector 1. Everyone managed to do so, but not particularly quickly. It's interesting to see when Quill decides to pit from the front. It's going to be now, so Quill's going to come in a lap later than Luke, relinquish that lead, and not be a roadblock to the chasing pack, as Luke's going to come back through for the lead. But this is probably going to put Quill up into 5th place, so Quill's had a really good first stint, was a little bit out of sync with everyone else. As they're going to trundle down the pit lane on the medium tyres, chose not to go for softs. Should have easily enough to get ahead of Anton Wong in the Aston Martin. You see them in the background, just coming down the pit straight, and yeah, that's going to put Quill in 5th. So looking like good points again for Mercedes, despite a slightly disappointing qualifying. So we've got a yellow flag in Sector 3 as Jordan spun. Is that a full safety car? Or are we on a VSC? I need to see a board. What are we on? VSC. It's a virtual. So virtual safety car is just going to chill it all out a bit. Going to cool some of the tyres down a little bit. But it's not going to close any of our gaps up. So we are still going to have the Luke leading by just over a second. Just keeping the McLaren at arm's length, just out of his DRS from Matthias and Jonathan, who have both managed to recover from Matthias losing a few places just as the first safety car came out, and Jonathan having that spin just as it ended. So both managed to recover from not a great safety car period to be running P2 and P3, and we've got a bit of a McLaren versus McLaren versus Mercedes at the front once again. Adam McCall's sort of the spanner in the works for that one, still running P4 in the Alpine, having a great race. Showed a lot of really good pace. I think he was just a little harsher on his tyres than the other guys around him. Started to drop off a little bit, and we have got a full safety car, so I think it's been upgraded. But I think everyone's going to stay out. Yeah, safety car's now out on track, so we have been upgraded. But I'm not sure if anybody's going to pit. Maybe someone near the back might gamble with getting softs to the end. Reckon you can do about 9 laps. And they will be light on fuel as, yeah, Anson's in. So the Aston Martin driver is going to come in the pits. I think he's going to go for soft tyres. He's already used his mediums. He's already on his hard. So he must be going softs. Yeah, there they are. The red sidewall tyres going on the Aston Martin. And that thing's going to be rapid for about 3 or 4 laps. And then it's going to be like driving a boat. So he needs to make up as many places as he can as soon as possible off the safety car restart. Jordan serves a 5-second penalty he got for speeding into the pit lane last time, but managed to get the speed off this time and replacing his front wing, which could be the cause of the safety car debris on the track, potentially out of Casio. And he's going to get them soft tyres on as well. So and Will's going to come in from 10th place and put some softs on his Red Bull as well. So we're going to have 3 guys at the back on brand new softs. It's going to be absolutely rapid. Luke's on 2-lap-old mediums. Quill's on 1-lap-old mediums. Lewis is on 7-lap-old mediums in the now lead Aston Martin. He's going to have his teammate right behind him on brand new soft tyres. So he might not fight that one too hard. But this safety car is going to help him get those to the end in a reasonable condition. Matthias did like 15 laps on the mediums, so this should be absolutely fine for Lewis now. Then we've got the guys who started on the mediums with Carroll, Appen, Compton and Matthias, all on the hard tyres between 3 and 5 laps old. So they're going to get very gradually quicker towards the end of the race, but they're not going to have the same raw pace as the soft tyres on the Mercedes boys. Although Quill actually with a well, they've been kind of bailed out a little bit by the safety car here. They were about 8 seconds off the top 4, and this is going to put them right there with those brand new medium tyres, really able to potentially make a challenge. We might have a little bit of a Mercedes versus McLaren job again, just like we had in Australia, but I'm sure Adam McCall will be hoping to spoil the party with his L plan. Have to see how that goes down. Carroll, after the spin from the lead as well, as managed to claw his way back up into 6th place, and Lewis is going to come in that second Aston Martin, so he's going to pit and he's going to go with the same deal. He's going to put some fresh softs on, so that gets him out of the way of Anson. Nah, this is not going to keep him ahead of Jordan though. I think Jordan's going to get to safety car line 2 first, as he's already at full speed. Yeah. So loses Lewis a couple of places, but brand new soft tyres, so shouldn't be too difficult to make those back up again on some of the hard and medium runners ahead of him. The hards especially are going to be a little bit of a sitting duck once a guy on softs rocks up behind you when they're like 2 laps old. We have seen most of the laps around here at racing speed be somewhere in the 1 minute 33s, 32s, and obviously we saw in quali there were quite a lot of drivers in the 29s. So yeah, those softs may be a little bit scary for the first few laps before they start to drop off. But we should be seeing safety car in at the end of this lap. Just Will coming through the Degners still to catch up onto the back of the train, which should be easy enough to do because the safety car is awfully slow around Spoon. As he's unfortunately disconnected again, so hopefully that's not going to hold the safety car up, but we're not going to have to go around again. Although I think all the soft runners might be kind of happy if we do have to. As the train's just running up to 130R, so just before there is the Sector 3 split line, which is when it will tell us if it's going in if the lights go off. I think the lights are off. Are we going in? No, we are not. No, we are going to do one more lap here behind safety. Yeah, the lights are stupid on the Mercedes, you can't see them because they're not sat on top of the car. That explains a lot. So we are going to have one more lap here, and Carroll's going to choose to get off those hard tyres, but unfortunately speeds into the pit lane, so that's kind of backfired a little bit. As he's going to go for some softs, I think, but he's got that penalty he needs to serve as well, so that's going to add on to his race time at the end of the race, unfortunately. Make sure I can get Will back in the session. Although he may be having the same issue I was having yesterday. It seems that his steam keeps disconnecting seemingly, which then yeets him unceremoniously out of the race, which is very unfortunate. Hopefully the AI doesn't murder his soft tyres too much, although I wouldn't bank on that one. But the train is going to be all together now, including Carol, who has just come out of the pits on those brand new soft tyres. So we are going to be get going at the end of this lap, and we're going to have a little bit of a sprint race to end. In terms of penalties, though, apart from Carol, everyone's clean, so this is going to be exactly decided on track. There's not going to be any penalties for people to think about unless they manage to pick them up in these last few laps. So hopefully everyone keeps it clean and doesn't pick up a bunch of corner cutting and track limits extension warnings and penalties, so we can have a finish on track, not worrying about the penalty delta between drivers. This is definitely going to help the soft guys out, as unfortunately we've got a bit of a spinner. That's Adam McCall, who was having a really good race, and he's unfortunately spun the car from P4 going through Spoon Curve, and it's going to drop him all the way to the back and on hards. Maybe just let a little bit too much heat get out of the rubber. Just found he had no grip coming through there, so we are going to be back to a Mercedes versus McLaren top 4. Luke leading the two McLaren of Matthias and Jonathan, and then Will currently in 4th place on the freshest and fastest tyres of these. As Luke's going to go a little early, he's going on the entry into Casio. Gets the power down, doesn't have a moment like Jonathan did on the last safety car restart, and he's caught Matthias napping, and he's going to have a 1.1 second lead. Jonathan and Quill weaving down the straight a little bit, getting a bit more heat in those tyres. It's all fair and above board and nice and safe, so there won't be any warnings or penalties coming for that. Just 4 tenths separate second, third and fourth, but Luke has absolutely flown off at the front. Timed that restart to perfection. He's got a 1.2 second lead already coming through sector 1. Anson, I think, has been caught out a little as well. Even on those fresh softs, he's a second back from Quill. Just can't seem to bridge a gap through sector 1. We're going to have Carroll and Jordan going side by side through Dunlop, and Carroll manages to make up the move. Gets himself up into P6. He's on the best tyres on the grid. He'll be looking to make them count for the next few laps. 1.4 seconds the lead at the front there. Luke's bolted. So he'll be hoping to get as far away as he can, but he's managing to do it and spending less battery than Matthias, so he's not even spending all of his pocket money right now. He's holding on to it, buying some sweets later. As Carroll's now all over the back of Anson, so he's gained them extremely quickly in the Haas, and he's going to be putting the Aston Martin under some pressure here for the run down to 130R. Although he just doesn't have the straight line speed to challenge on the run down here. So we might be looking possibly for a move into Casio if Anson gets this slightly wrong. Anson takes a wider line through 130 as, up in front, Quill's managed to go around the outside of Johnny through Casio. And he takes P3 for Mercedes. That's going to be a great move. And that's going to check aboard the front 4 now. But it has cost Quill and Jonathan a little bit of time to Matthias. Quill's just about hanging in his DRS. And they're going to have Jonathan all over the back of them as we run through this first sector, but there's not really a lot you can do here. It's very difficult to overtake through this first sector unless the driver in front makes a mistake, and Quill generally doesn't make mistakes. So that's going to be a little bit of an unlikely hunting ground for Jonathan. But just behind them, Carroll's going to go for the same move he went on Jordan, and he's going to go round the inside of Dunlop. It's a great move. Really likes that, gets a really good drive there, really stable rear end on the run up the hill into Dunlop. And then gets him up into P5. He's going to be tearing after this front 4 on these soft tyres. We've only got 2 laps life on them, so they'll definitely be fine until the end. Although I'm not sure how much quicker than the mediums they'll be once we get there. But Quill has dropped out of Matthias's DRS range, so currently we're looking towards the same 4-2 as we had last time out with Luke and Matthias, unless Quill can somehow get on the back of him. But Jonathan's sticking with Quill, still in this DRS, and Carroll's already up within half a second. He's taken half a second out of them in sector 2, which is the bit where the tyres don't really matter all that much. A purple sector 2 on this lap this time round, and doing so while holding on to a decent amount of DRS as well. Just great pace from the Haas driver, looking to make amends after that spin earlier on. DRS is going to be enabled here, and Quill's managed to get back up towards Matthias, who's who has spent all of his pocket money and won't have any sweets for later, down to just 10% on his ERS. So this is going to be Quill on Jonathan and Carroll all over the back of the second McLaren, the first McLaren, apologies. And Anson's going to be outside the DRS, so it's looking like it's going to be a bit of a 4-horse fight for P2, as Luke has still bolted out in front, still holding on to 50% of his battery, so he's going to have plenty of charge to defend himself with. As Quill's actually lost a bit of time in Sector 1, so Matthias gets a really good amount of traction and grip there on those hard tyres. And he's going to pull out to 1.4. This is going to put Quill under pressure from Jonathan and Carroll, as they're going to drop into the hairpin. And Carroll's going to look for a move on Jonathan, possibly through 200R, but doesn't quite get the traction on the exit of the corner. Going to have to follow him through, but they're both going to be looking at Quill like, well, I don't know, like a Sunday dinner on the run down the pit straight into turn 1. Quill's going to be an absolute sitting duck with no DRS. Carroll thought about moving to the second part of Spoon, which is definitely not overtaking place. Things better of it and backs out. Allows Johnny to keep P4. And Quill's, well, look, only in your mirrors, Quill. Going forwards isn't the important thing right now. As Carroll's going to go for a move on Johnny into Casio. Carroll goes off the track. Went too late, locked up slightly, and Johnny's going to hold that place, but that's going to release Quill. It's going to be a second and a half back to the McLaren driver now, with Luke 2.2 out in front, and then second and a half back to Quill, and another second and a half back to Johnny. It was a probably not the smartest Carroll's done today, as he went for a pretty audacious move into Casio. Didn't quite come off, brake too late, just kind of ran Johnny off the track a little. That is going to be unfortunate for him and Johnny, but they're going to have dropped off the back of Quill and going to be trying to regain that and get back in the DRS. Johnny's managing to get very close. Quill seems quite tentative through Sector 1, losing a little bit of time to the McLaren driver, who is just going to get that gap under a second now, but we've got to wait a whole half a lap before we get to DRS. So we'll be counting his chickens just yet. As I need to drink because my voice is dying. So, Quill in P3. 1.7 behind Matthias, who's in P2. Front two seem pretty sorted here, without any major mistakes or ridiculous laps coming out from anybody. Jonathan's managed to close back up to within half a second of the Mercedes. We'll be looking to take away a second consecutive double podium from the Mercedes team, hoping to outscore them in the Constructors if possible, but with Luke currently leading, that's unlikely to bridge that gap that's currently at 10 points. Johnson is going to have the DRS, and Carroll behind as well, though Johnson's managed to put a decent gap on the Haas driver. I wonder if his softs have kind of got past their best already. Quill's going to manage to hold the position, keeps a good line through turn 1 and 2. He's going to be under a lot of pressure here though through Sector 1. Johnson has had a lot more pace through this tight, twisty S section, but it's very difficult to really use it to affect an overtake in Sector 1. As Quill's just going to balance us up through Dunlop, sweeps it round and keeps Johnny at bay for now, but just 3/10 the gap. Quill might have to get a bit defensive here, as Jordan picks up a time penalty, which is only going to be our second one of the race, so very well behaved, all these guys, sticking to track limits. Johnson almost pushing Quill through the hairpin, and that might compromise his exit very slightly, and it's going to bring Carroll right back onto the back of the McLaren. We'll be hoping he goes for another suicide lunge into Casio, but we've got to survive Spoon first for the Mercedes driver, which he manages to do. Takes a good line through there and holds Johnny behind. Deploying battery now on the run down to 130R a little bit, but not all that much. But then Johnny's only just decided to start to deploy now. He's maybe going to try and move into Casio himself. Best defense is attack. And Quill just parks in the middle of the track and nowhere for Johnny really to go. Johnny focuses on getting the best exit possible, and he's going to go for a move possibly here with DRS into turn 1. Quill goes defensive, deploying the battery, spending as much of that ERS as they can get away with. Johnny's going to look towards the outside, but Quill just sweeps in front. But Johnny's going to get down the inside, nice little switch back into turn 2. And he's going to take that P3 away from the Mercedes driver, and that's going to leave Quill a little bit vulnerable possibly to Carroll. had to take a compromised line through 1 and 2 side by side with Johnny. And that Haas on those soft tyres is going to be all over the back of the Mercedes driver. Looking for P4, he's going to try this move again down the inside of Dunlop. Quill's wise to it, deploys a little battery, holds fence him off into Degner 1. Carl has to run a little over the curbs and onto the gravel. But I think that was pretty fair. Quill was in front and on the inside, so probably there right to the corner. But that's going to allow Johnny a bit of breathing room. He's going to have 8 tenths now back to the Mercedes, though. Quill is going to spend through 200R, try and get on the back of the McLaren. They're about equal on battery. Johnny spent quite a lot to affect that move into turn 1. And Quill's not going to have that battery advantage, but they are going to get that rear wing open. Luke cruising at the front, about 3 seconds the lead. Matthias P2, but a couple of seconds back to Johnny. And this fight here with Quill, and Quill's going to look for a move into Casio on the grass, and brakes way too late. And Johnny has to cut that corner, and that's going to get removed. Johnny has basically forced off track, has to take to the escape road. Didn't really have to restore the gap all that much to Quill, because it was entirely Quill's fault and there was contact in there. But that is going to drop Quill back behind Carroll in the Haas as we go on to the last lap. And Adam McCall, actually, after having that spin on that restart, has managed to clear all of the soft guys behind. And he's now looking at the back of Quill for a potential P5 or maybe even P4 if Carroll's tyres really are going off. Though he is on those freshest softs. Carroll's just 1.2 back from Johnny, so unless he's still got a little bit of rubber left on these tyres, unlikely he's going to get the DRS, which could leave him potentially exposed to Quill if Quill manages to get an exceptional exit out of Casio. But I think that is unlikely. But Luke, 3 seconds the lead, kind of cruising now. Starting from the Mercedes driver looking at back-to-back wins to start the season. Matthias a further 3 seconds ahead of this little gaggle of 4 here with Jonathan, Carroll, Quill and Adam McCall. As they're all going to now run down towards 130. I'll be interested to see if anybody goes for any suicide lunges here. As we sweep through the quick left-hander. Quill might be close enough to think about a move on Carroll if they can get a perfect exit here. As Luke wins, Matthias is going to come on P2, Jonathan P3. He's got that 3 second time penalty for corner cutting, but that is getting removed. Which is going to give Quill P3 on track, but I would say that would be a P3 for Jonathan after that 3 seconds is removed. Followed by Quill, then Adam McCall, and then Anson Wong and Lewis Pearce in the Aston Martins. Going to take some decent points for Aston Martin, which is nice as they didn't get any in Australia. So that gets them off the mark. Decent points from Adam McCall as well in the Alpine is going to get them off the mark. Unfortunately, not great race for Williams after the pace they have shown the first 2, but they are going to get 2 points, courtesy of reserve driver Jordan Bailey. So, full results there. Luke winning for Mercedes. He's 2 down, 2 wins. Great start to the season for the Mercedes team. Matthias P2 for McLaren. Johnny says down in P5, but with that 3 second penalty for essentially being forced off at Casio. My view is that would be P3 and a double podium for McLaren. P4 then will be Quill for Mercedes. So again, Mercedes and McLaren dominating the top 4 positions, followed by the Alpine of Adam McCall, both Aston Martins of Anson Wong and reserve driver Lewis Pearce 6th and 7th. The Haas of Karol Wodzinski, after serving a 5 second penalty at the end of the race for speeding in the pit lane, takes P8. Jordan Bailey P9, and Will Coates, unfortunately with a few disconnections, finishes a lap down P10, but does get 1 point for finishing the race essentially, as everybody else died. Oh, Suzuka. that was class. I'm not gonna lie, that was class. Luke kind of just left, and everyone else was like, "Cool, let's fight." Like, okay, but yeah, that was GRS F1. My name's been Zeke, and I've been your commentator. I will be here pretty much every week. If you unless you want to sack me, which is fine, I can find something else to do on a Tuesday. Remember to follow the league on social media. We have Instagram and all that jazz. And obviously our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe if you are not, like if you liked the video. And there should be a link to our Discord as well if you want to race with us. We have PCF1 here on a Tuesday. There is one open full-time seat, so if you're getting quick and you've got the pace for PC1, you can nab that full-time Aston Martin seat. We've also got PC2 on a Monday, slightly slower drivers, same racing, same high-quality standards, and we unfortunately do not have any full-time seats in there right now, but you can sign up, join in as a reserve, and there's always going to be some reserves racing every week. So you could end up with essentially a full-time seat, even if you're not always in the same car. But we will be back next week, Monday, 7 PM UK, PC2, at Circuit of the Americas. Oh wait, Miami. It's Miami. There's 2 American races back to back. It's Miami next week. And then same time next week, we will have Miami here with PCF1. So we get to see if anybody gets punted into the underpass going through the little Mickey Mouse chicane before the long back straight.